At the bottom of the page, Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, we are in Machlokes of Rav Shmuel, and we are in the Ikadamri. I would repeat the Ikadamri, which is, the line starts with Machzeres. Yeah, about 10 lines, maybe a bit less from the bottom of the page. Line starts with the word Machazeres. Okay. Sorry about that. This year's Nishmas of Menachem Ben Akiva. Nishmas Rochel Bas Ben Zion, Soro Bas Moshe, Rochel Bas Shalom. Rus Bas Shalom. The first Osher Goldigil Bas Shifra, the first Yudis Bas Rivka. The Sochar Chol Yisrael. Ikadamri. We are in the sugya that talks about Shane. When an animal walks down the street and the animal took something from the middle of the street, from the very open area in the market where animals normally walk, how much does the owner have to pay if the animal had a bite and had a nice supper from someone else's market stall? If it's open and mamish where everyone's supposed to be walking, it's considered as Shane. What? Not chetzi. Chetzi is not exactly. You're close, but not a cigar. It's potter b'shus rabim. However, although it's potter, you're not completely wrong either. You still have to pay for the nenes, right? If the animal, lemaisa, you saved supper at my expense, you have to pay less. Mashenenes. Mashenenes always means like not full payment. It's not half, 2/3, whatever. Now we say, what happens if it ate from the sides? We have a concept called sideh harachovo. Sideh harachovo is an area which is, by the way, this is something new which Tosfos only says now in the next sugya. The sideh harachovo is a place which is less accessible for animals. In order to get there, they either have to turn their heads, cock their heads to the side and make some kind of acrobatic movement in order to get there, okay? Or the more audacious ones where mamish move completely and move in, hook, line, and sinker, the entire body into that sideh harachovo. And that place is considered as what? That's considered as private domain, or according to Rashi, Keren, crazy behavior. And therefore there you have to pay in full Keren, only if you did it 3 times, of course. Why? Because that's already called private, semi-private, but private. However, when it comes to Machzeres, if the animal was in Reshus Harabim and turned its head into that area, that's a machlokes before. Previously, we said that there was machlokes Rav Shmuel. Rav says Machzeres is chayev. Rav says if the animal has to turn its head to the side and doesn't completely walk and eats as it walks, but it has to do something special, get its head out of the box, so to speak, then says Rav, then it's already chayev. That if it goes to sideh Reshus Harabim that way with the head to the side, that would be considered as going to private domain. Shmuel said no. Shmuel said it's still potur because just turning your head is not enough of going into the also private, staff only kind of domain. Okay? Mashein can, according to Shmuel, when would we say sideh harachovo is chayev? If the animal completely entered the sideh harachovo, it went out of its course, out of the route, out of the trajectory, and entered that sideh harachovo area, that side of the shop. Then, says Shmuel, when it's entirely there, with the entire body, then it's considered to be like Shein B'Reshus HaYochid, which is Chayav Nezek Sholem. Okay? Now we come to say a different machlokes. Ikad Amri, Machzeres, that's where we start the shir today, Baruch Hashem Siyata Dishmaya. Ikad Amri Machzeres. Kula alma lo pligi de chayeves. Ikadami is a different opinion. Machzeres kula alma lo pligi de chayeves. If the animal actually cocked its head and turned its head to the side and entered with the head to that high place, says Tosfos, to that place which is geographically different to Reshus Harabim, it has to go up like that. So then it's considered as chayeves lekula alma. Both Rav Shmuel. Why? Because that's already called a different domain, a different area. A place which is only accessible by going, no, that's not called accessible enough, not Reshus Harabim normal enough, and therefore it's Reshus HaYochid vis-a-vis Shein, and it's chayev. Kipligi. So what did Rav Shmuel argue about? The makze mokem Reshus Harabim. We did it yesterday, we're reviewing it today. The persona lives right near Reshus Harabim. It lives, or a shop, I would say, is right by Reshus Harabim. Makze means his own house. He basically built his house further into his own domain, and there's an area left which belongs to him, according to Tosfos and following Tosfos. Now, the area basically is front yard. His front yard is mamash by the market. Imagine yourself a place in, I don't know, Machne Yehuda or I don't know, India or wherever you want. Yeah, there's a marketplace with the whole balagan, and the person's own front yard is adjacent. Yeah, maybe there's like some kind of small yellow line to demarcate the border. But other than that, it all looks the same, feels the same, and he allows people to go there sometimes. But he also puts his own stuff there. He placed his vegetables there. People know that it's his place, but conceptually, he allows them to walk through his place also. So now that's a machloikis. What happens when an animal eats from his chayre, from his house, whatever, from his yard, which is right next to Shus Arabim? Omarat, loishna l'machzeres. And machzeres really, where it's separate, it's a separate height, separate level from the animal's height. It's higher, more separate, then it's called Reshus Ha-Yochid, and she is Chayiv. If he allotted, he allowed, he designated some area from his Reshus Rabim, he's just a nice guy. Then the animal is potter. Why? Although financially speaking belongs to him, and also in the tabu, and also when they look in the buildings plans, let's say the green area marked in the tabu belongs to him, so that belongs to him. But Lamaisa, the animal is allowed to walk there, and it's right there. It's not a different height, different level. It's all the same level. It's all on floor level, and therefore he says that it's potter. Yeah, Rav says that's a place where an animal is allowed to walk. If you allow the animals to walk there, Mimela, it's like Reshus Harabim, and therefore if the animal had a nice bite from your few prized apples, it is potter. Of course, potter means potter general. From Shen, I'm not talking about the Hano. Shmuel Omar, no. Shmuel Omar, film acts, mokim Reshus Harabim, chayeves. Shmuel says, no. Chayeves. Shmuel says, even in the place, just like Machzeres, cocking its head to a different place is considered as Reshus HaYochid. So too, although this area is the same level, same plane, same everything, still the animal is chayav, and the reason can be very simple. At the end of the day, as Tzvi Rosen said yesterday at the end of the shir, the person can say, listen, I allow you animals to come to me just because I'm a nice guy, doesn't mean that I'm the friar. Yeah, friar I'm not. And therefore, I expect your animals to behave themselves when they come to my Reshus, just because I'm generous, doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. That's superficially speaking. Now the Gemara will go more, the Gemara is going to go deeper into the Rav Shmuel understanding. So again, what's Machlokes Rav Shmuel? Machlokes Rav Shmuel is a nice guy, Mr. Nice Guy, has a smiley on his t-shirt, and what he allows people to walk through his Reshus, which is his legally private domain, but it's right next to Reshus Harabim. It's a continuation of the market. If the animal ate, is that considered Reshus HaYochid? Because it is his Reshus HaYochid, or is it Reshus Rabim? Because an animal can walk there. Very good, What determines Reshus HaYochid Rabim? The ownership or the accessibility to walk, which they have. Lema, let us try to dig deeper, excuse the pun. We're now going to compare it to a bow. There was a similar machloikes regarding bow, not between Rav Shmuel, there was a machloikes Tanoim, Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva regarding the following case. And we want to connect Rabbi Shmuel's machloikis to that machloikis. Lema bebol bilshusei kamiflagi. What happens if a person dug a pit, a bore in his own reshus, and now the pit is in his reshus, but he allows everyone to play there. He allows all the neighbors' children to come play in his backyard, and he dug a nice big pit over there. It's a similar question. Do we say, listen, I allow you to come, doesn't mean that you have to come, it's at your own risk. I didn't go to Reshus Harabim and I didn't dig a hole over there in the middle of Reshus Harabim. You can say I'm irresponsible, I'm mazik. The boar is in my Reshus. My own kids know to be very, very careful with the boar. Since they're 0, whatever, before they learn Moide Ani, they learn to be very careful with the boar. If your kid came and he fell into the boar, it's not your kid, your bull came to my place and fell into the boar, it's his problem, not mine. Or do we say no? Because you do allow all the bulls and all the dogs and all the kalim to be there. The truth is over there, it's not just a story, they also learn it from psukim. Some people learn that boar is only, I don't remember which Tana says what, unfortunately. But Lamaisa, the idea is that some people say bow is only Reshus Harabim, that's an essence of bow, and some say no, bow is anywhere accessible. You made your play area accessible to all animals. It's an animals park, your backyard. That's such things today, yeah? So Mimela, if my dog fell, it is your fault because it's a bone in a place where everyone can potentially be. So let's assume that the argument regarding the animal eating something, the questions will be welcome in about 5 minutes. You took the number. You took the number. You took this little machine in Pagi. So now we want to connect the two machloikesim, the one about Bo and the one about the pairs. Rav de Omar Potu, Rav that says over here that if Lucy, the cow, ate from the pairs of who? Of Mr. Nice Guy, who's right next to Rosh Hashanah, the animal is allowed to eat, and therefore the animal is also potu. Hey, if I'm allowed to walk around, it's like Rosh Hashanah, so I'm potu. I assume Rav also holds, we're now connecting, engaging the machlokesim, kasava, bo b'rshus chayiv, Mistama Rav holds that what? Bo, in one's own place, where everyone's allowed to walk, the person is chayiv on the bor. If my animal fell into your bor, in your domain, but it's your domain where you allow everyone to walk, it's your own private, generous domain, then you are chayiv. Now we have a big yisod. What does one have to do the other? Explains Rashi very nicely. If you have a bow in Roshus Harabim, or anywhere else, mark my words, or anywhere else where it's also to have a bow, which according to Rav would be private domain, but there's a big sign that says, everyone welcome, regardless of your, gender, religion. Everyone's welcome to the backyard. So now, if that's your bor is over there, you chayev. Your parents in Rishus Harabim, it's not Rishus Harabim, it's like Rishus Harabim, are like a bow. Because those parents actually disturb the animals from walking, you put tomatoes over there or banana with banana peels, and they can all, slide by. No, how do you say? They can all slip. They can all slip on it. So mimela, a bow, anywhere where a bow is also, I'm allowed to take the bow and confiscate it. Ever happened to you? In Kita Aleph, the teacher confiscated your favorite pencil because you're playing with it too much or whatever, disturbing. You're allowed to confiscate the bow. In other words, the fact that my animal ate your fruit is doing a service to the public. You have a bow Rishus Harabim, even though it's not Rishus Harabim, but it's where Rabim can reach. Mimela, and according to Rav, we now assume that place, the boar, is not allowed to be there. If I ate your boar, I'm potter, yeah? The line the Rashi quotes is, it says, Kol HaMachzik Bahen Zocho. You can see Rashi in the third line from bottom of the page, Kol Mekalkel B'Shus Abim Sheziku, Chayav L'Shalem. Any Mekalkel in Rishus Abim has to pay. The Kol HaMachzik Bahen Zocho. You can confiscate it. Let's say a person placed something dangerous in the middle of Rishus Abim, more than 3 tefachim high, and it's nice and expensive. We can hold, you can take it, it's hefker. The mere fact that he placed it as nezik means it's hefker l'chul alma. Yeah, and therefore he put his box there full of diamonds. That looks nice to me. I'll go on a nicer vacation. Yeah, that's that's the, instead of the Caribbean, I'll go to Hawaii. Yeah, in other words, that's a zach. That's mimelu. The animal can eat it. Don't complain. You put the nezik. My animal ate your nezik. Good for it. Lamalo. That's how we want to connect it. The Shmuel. Now we want to connect Shmuel to the other opinion. Shmuel Domer Chayev. Shmuel says what? That the animal that ate the fruit, the animal is chayev for eating the fruit in that place where animals can, the private, generous place. Kasava, bo b'shusa potu. Shmuel says no. Bo b'shusa yochid, even if animals are allowed to walk around there, is potu. At the end of the day, can say it's my private domain. I allow your dog to be there, but it should follow my rules. Yeah, bo is b'shusa abim. In my private domain, I love boars. Do you have a problem with that? Your dog fell into my boar. Bad for him. You should make sure that he doesn't. You educate him like I educated my dog. It's my domain, my baya, and the Shmuel. That's what we're trying to say. And therefore here too, when you have those pile of fruit in the Rishus HaYochid / Avim, in that place, according to Shmuel, the person is allowed to place his fruit over there. It's not called a bowl. And if your animal ate from my fruit, no, your animal should beware of what it's doing, and therefore the animal is chayev in eating. Yeah, it's very, in order to get it, in other words, Rav says that bo b'shusay chayev. Rav puts more liability on the owner of the bowl or the payers. And Shmuel says no. In my home is my castle, says Shmuel. Shmuel says, in my house, I allow you to be there, but you follow my rules. And therefore, if you fell into the boar, it's your problem. And if it ate the fruit, it's also your problem. And pay me. That's how we want to connect the two machlokesim of boar and peros. However, now we're going to disengage it and disconnect Rav and Shmuel from that machlokes tanoim, which is good, because usually Amoraim and tanoim, their machlokesim should be divorced from each other. Two questions, and then we continue. Yes. Drink Coke. Yeah. Rav now wants to say, no, I'm not meshubed to the other opinion. Usually, really, I would tell you, be'alma, usually, flip the page, bobo shusoi potu. Could normally, in the case of bo, in the domain of the private person where people fell into it, the bo is potu, enochinami. Why? Because only bo b'shus rabim Torah is mechayiv. Like Rabbi Shmuel, those Rabbi Shmuel, bo is b'shus rabim. Bo in my domain, it's my domain, you behave the way I want, and if your dog fell into a boar in my domain, it's his problem. So why do we say here, by the fruit it's different? How come by the fruit we change our skin? The owner of the animal can say to the owner of the fruit, that's not fair. It's not something which is right, which is within your ability or with your justice. You bring your fruit so close to Rishus Harabim, and you allow all the animals to walk right there. In other words, it's impossible. Usually, I would hear that bo b'shus, if my animal fell into your boar, your potter in your private domain, also some kind of understanding. Yeah, it's my place. But over here, you allow everyone to walk while your fruit is over there, and then you will tell me the animal is chayev. That's not right. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. You can't be mechayev them. That's why. Shmuel also disengages himself also from the boar story. Shmuel possibly could be bo b'shusoi, a boar in the private domain could be chayev. The bishlam abo ikalmema lav adaite, which means when you allow my cow or my sheep or my whatever to play in your backyard has a bow, I would say, Mr. Yerchayev, my animal doesn't know how to look to be on the lookout for a boar, to be careful of a bow. A bow, usually regular boar, last time I checked, is subterranean. It's something below ground, right? My animal lav adaite. It's not something within the understanding of my animal, the cautious of my animal, to caution of my animal to be careful, and therefore you're chayiv. You allow everyone to be there, yes. The boar is invisible, yes, and therefore how could my animal be careful? You pay, please. Ela peros, now the fruit are above ground. Fruit obviously are not sub, they are a 3D object, they are a pile above the ground. By the fruit, could you say that the animal doesn't see the animals? The animal can see them. The animal can see the fruit. In other words, usually, and that's very, very interesting, by the way, usually we said that the av of bo is a bow, a pit in the street. What's it told of bo? Avna sakina masoi. Things that are above ground, yeah, just an object that disturbs everyone in the middle of the street. Here we differentiate. Although in Rishus Harabim they're all the same, because Rishus Harabim we say, like Rashi says over there, about it's always the same din. Yeah, the Rishus Harabim, there's no Rishus whatsoever to place a takolo. In Rishus Harabim, we're very strict. You're one private guy, individual. You can't dig a bone in Rishus Harabim, and you can't put a pile in Rishus Harabim, and that's it. And you, the boar owner, or the fruit owner, or the box owner, who stuck something stupid in the middle of the street, you can't say, oh, the animal should have been careful. We'll discuss it later, but generally you can't say that. If it's in your house, then we start differentiating more, almost balabatishly. If it's something which is in your domain, we say, okay, there are two tzdodim here. On one hand, it's your private domain. On the other hand, you put a big sign, all animals welcome. Yeah, also the whales from, I don't know, California. Yeah, everyone's welcome over there in my backyard. Mimela, we say, there are two tzdodim here. So if the boar is something invisible with the animals, we say, you're chayev. You invite everyone into a matzav where the animals have no idea that there's a pit over there. You know, like in the cartoons, it's covered with all kinds of things, that boom, it falls inside, an ambush. The animal can't know about that. Mashenkin, if it's in your private domain and the boar is piled up where the animals can see that, so therefore it's not considered a boar. The animal can be careful. Your animal chose not to be careful and chose to eat it. That's a different story. The animal chose to eat it, then we'd say, enochinami, you would be chayev. Okay? That's what we want to say. And therefore, the machlokes regarding boar, the machlokes regarding Paris are two separate machlokot. Yes. Now it's time to ask. Weiter. Yo. Lema mechazeres tanoihi. Line starts with the word he. Let us say that the machlokes about mechzeres. Remember, previously we said machlokes Rav Shmuel about if the animal walks down the street and then tilts the head to the side, and do we say that that's considered to be a what? Is it considered to be shen reshus hayochid? It's like reshus hayochid says Rav Chayev, and Shmuel said potter because lemaisa is just cocking its head. It's not really going into the osir place. Let's say it's a machlokes tanoim. We're trying to suggest machlokes Rav Shmuel. In the previous Havana, is Machlokes Tanoim. Is that good for Rav Shmuel or not to argue the same thing as Tanoim? No, it's not. It's not Lemke Tanoim. Why should they repeat? Why should they reinvent the wheel? The Tanya. But we're trying now, yes, to put the Michshel over here. It says a very interesting brisa, very interestingly phrased. Well, the first opinion of the brisa is familiar terrain, and it says, if the animal ate from the actual rechova, from the plaza, as they say, from the main part of the market, main street, then the animal only pays for the ano, not full price. Shen, reshus harabim, potu. Mitzida rechova. If it came to that funny gray area place, tzida rechova, then it has to pay what? Full price, because it's like entering Reshus Ha, which Reshus HaYochid Keilu. It's too private for Shane to be Potu. Who says that? That's the opinion of Meir Rabbi Yehuda, Tutanoim. Now come other Tutanoim. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Blezer argue, and they say, look at this line, Ein da kalechol ela lehalech. Very interesting line. For the animal, it's not normal to eat, only to walk. What does that mean? Ein da kalechol ela lehalech. We don't know what that means. That's good. Because now we're going to try and understand those words and try to connect those two statements to the issue of machzeres. Rabbi Yossi, which is the Rabbi Yossi, Frag the Gemara, Hainu Tanakama. What's the difference between Rabbi Yossi and Tanakama? In other words, well, what's the question? In other words, if you say, maybe we mean to say, En da'aka lechol ela lehalech, is to say the animal is only considered to be a shane where it's walking. Get what I'm saying? Le'echol and halach go hand in hand. The place where the animal naturally walks, that's the place where shen applies. But if the animal has to move to a whole different area, then we say that it's chayev. Maybe that's what he means, but then it's the same thing as Tanakama. What's the difference between Rabbi Yossi and Tanakama? They both say the same thing, that Shen in the main place is Reshus Harabim Potu, but if you go in a place which is not your regular trajectory where you go to work every day, you go a little bit to the side, then you are Chayev. So what's the difference? Ela must be machzeres ika beinayu. Must be the difference between them is regarding machzeres. The animal did walk in its regular place, but tilted the head. It didn't completely go to the other lane, to the private area, and it didn't yet, and on the other end, it didn't eat in the main street either. It stayed in the main street, but the head was in the private place. And that's a question. Tanakama sova, soon we'll see Rashi. Tanakama sova machzeres nami meshalemes mashenenes. Tanakama says simple. Tanakama doesn't differentiate doesn't seem to differentiate between different positions, or the animal does. Tanakama only spoke about domains, right? Tanakama spoke about rechova and tzida rechova. That's all. And therefore, I don't care if the animal tilted its head or not. Meshalemes mashenenes. Machzeres also has to pay what? Only what it's ne'eneh. Not the full price, only the small small price because the animal itself is in the main street. He speaks about the domain. Which domain is the animal in? 90% of the animal, except for the head. And therefore, Mashalem is Mashanenis, even though the head happens to be tilted to the side. It's not such a big, shinui. And therefore, it only pays, Nanis only pays the minimum price. It's potter, it's shen. Rabbi Yosi, soon we'll see Rashi explains Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi, Sava Mashalem is Mashezika. Rabbi Yosi, what does he say? He connects it to what? To actions, yeah? And he says, Mishalemes Mashehezika, if the animal is here in the main street and tilts the head to the side, then it has to pay full price. Why? Look at Rashi, Mechzeres Hika Benayu. Rashi is a little bit above where we are. Mechzeres Hika Benayu. Says Rashi, the Shaminan le Rabbi Meir, the Omer Betzida Rechov Meshalemes Mashezika. A Meir says, if you are on the side of the street, you pay for the nezek. Yeah, in other words, Rabbi Meir speaks about a case where the entire animal moved its whole body into the side, into the private area. That's mamish being in a private place. Of course, you chayv on shen. Bisdei acher. Aval mechzeres loy. But if the animal is in the main normal street, just moving the head, no, that's not called that the animal moved to Reshus HaYochid. The Kama Rabbi Yosi, as I told you, Rabbi Yosi cares about what's normal mitzad the motion of the animal. Rabbi Yosi says, what was Lashon Rabbi Yosi? The funny kivyochel Lashon Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi says, the normal way of an animal is to walk and eat and walk and eat. It's walking and eating all the same place. But the animal that tilted the head, the animal that did something crazy, something abnormal for the animal, it's the animal that's considered as a weird act, which is maybe Keren, or it's considered weird that if such a weird, it's a siman, I don't know if you get the depth here, if such a weird action is required, that's not called that it's accessible for the animal. I don't want to get political over here, but, some government offices, they're not very accessible for people, and sometimes on purpose, You're let's say, you're supposed to get on 1,000 shekel from them. If you go, between 2 and 2:15 to Be'er Sheva, to the office, and the clerk has a good mood, you can get the money. So you, as a nice American guy, would say, is that called being accessible? Is that called being approachable? No. So if the place in Reshus Harabim is a place where the animal has to go and stop and do the thing with the hand, Mimela, it's a siman, that's an indication that such a place is not the normal place of the animal to eat. Mimela, what is it called? Yochid. Mimela, here the animal is chayev. That's a one explain machloekes between the first group of Rameir and the second group of Rabbi Yosi. That's a machloekes. Yeah, do we say that if the animal has to go a hump all the way there and turn back the hand in a weird way, is that still called Reshus Harabim, or that's already called so inaccessible, right? That it's considered like Reshus HaYochid. So now maybe that's a machloekes. And Mimela, the Amoraim and Tanoim are too friendly. We have two Amoraim with two Tanoim, right? And says the Gemara, no, we quickly disengage the two, and after we get to the Mishnah, you can ask your questions too. And says the Gemara, it's not a long time. The Kula Alma Machzeres Ikiravi Kishmuel. No. Either both, all groups of Tanoim can either go like Rav, or all of them can go like Shmuel regarding Machzeres. In other words, Machzeres is not the issue. Not the issue. So what is the argument? That's unbelievable. We're now going to break the most important Havana we had, the axiom that we had all along. We're going to now question. They're actually arguing about bir b'sde'acher, meaning in the Havamina now we want to say that they argue whether an animal in the Reshus Harabim is potter or chayev. Wow. In other words, we want to claim now that one of the Tanoim, Bir Bizdei Acher, Rabbi Yosi would say that an animal, as it walks, it's chayev. In Reshus Harabim, chayev and shen. Aren't you all fainting on the spot? Baruch Hashem. You want to say when Rabbi Yosi says that what? That walking and eating is normal, doesn't mean to pater, it means to be mechayev. How could that be? Why am I so shocked? Because we believe in the Torah. And the Torah says what? Bir b'sde'acher. The animal went and ate in someone else's field. Not Rishus HaRabim. Rishus HaRabim is potter is almost written in the Torah. How can Rabbi Yossi argue? Explains the Gemara. The mainstream opinion, which is Tanakama over here, which is Rabbi Meir and his group, they say, look, we learned all the time in the past few months already. What? Bir bisdei acher, excluding Rishus HaRabim, only in the private domain of the Nizak is chayev, in a public domain potter. Omar Sovar, listen to what Rabbi Yossi may say. Omar Sovar, ubir bisdei acher v'lo b'rshus ha'mazik. Ay. Says the Gemara, you know what bir bisdei acher means? If my animal went into your place and ate your fruit by you, then it is chayev. Let's say the mazik, let's say it's the other way. Let's say let's say you put your fruit into my domain, uninvited. You're going to Chul, for a week. You're going to Bulgaria. Stam, I picked a country, nothing personal. And you have a lot of fruit at home, and you need to go to Bulgaria. You can't take all the fruit with you to Bulgaria. So now what? What do? You take your fruit and you say, Akiva, can you please look after my fruit? I would say, yeah, b'simcha rabba. But no, actually, I didn't say b'simcha rabba. I said, no, I'm being nasty. But you still put your fruit in my place. I said, okay, I'm not mekabel shmira. And then my cow, I have a few cows, my cow ate the fruit. Then I'm potter. You placed your fruit in my domain without my permission. Then I'm potter from an animal, no liability. You put your fruit without asking me. Of course, my animal has good appetite, it's going to eat them. Then I'm potter. And that's what the Torah was mechadesh by bir bisdei acher. Says the Torah, says the Gemara, what? For such a poshet to balbatish svara, even Mackenzie understands it. For this, you need a posuk. Frag the Gemara, birshus hamazik. Are you serious? We need the Torah to tell me that? If I had a God which I understood, it wouldn't have to be a God, Lema, you obviously can tell him, my boy, what does your fruit do in my domain? What does your fruit do in my house? I never allowed you to put my fruit there. So you're complaining now that my animal ate your fruit, which is there, it's just disturbing me. What? We don't need a posuk to tell me that. Therefore, we're still in trouble. How can we say that Rabbi Yossi comes and tells me that B'rshus HaRabim, the animal is chayev, and only in the Rishus of the mazik it's potter? We don't need the posuk to tell me that. Ella, we completely change again the understanding of the Mechlokes between Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi. The ilf of Rabbi Yoshia ika benayu. The difference between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Meir and their groups are regarding the cases of the ilf and Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Rosen, you should be happy now because this is what you said yesterday at the beginning of the sugya. The cases of Ilfa and Rabbi Yoshia are, Ilfa said, and this is good chazara, we spoke about those questionable Rishus HaYochid inside Rishus HaRabim. You remember the question? Can we have an autonomous mobile Rishus HaYochid in Rishus HaRabim? When you drive your car in the middle of a very busy street, on a 6-lane road, the place is very public, but your car is private, right? And you have a moving Rishus HaYochid inside Rishus HaRabim for all kinds of, purposes. That is the question. Ilfa said before, Behema sheposhto tzavoa, remember the animal, poshto tzavoa, it cocked its neck, it craned its neck, and ate from the back of its friend. Remember? One chamor has grains on the back, the other one has good appetite. That's a good agreement. That's a good teamwork. One eats off the back of the other. Would that be considered as shen b'rshus hayochid or not? Ilfa wanted to say enochinami chayeves. It's b'rshus hayochid. It's a private domain in the middle of Rishus HaRabim. And the case of Rabbi Oshia was, let's say an animal that somebody has a backpack. He mistakenly left it open, the top. The animal jumped, or jumping and stands on its two back feet and eats off his backpack. So that would be considered possibly as Rishus HaYochid. Either Karen or Shen b'Rishus HaYochid, because his backpack may be like Rishus HaYochid. Oh, that's the argument between them. Rabbi Meir says, Rabbi Meir was more straight-laced, conservative. Rabbi Meir, if you now look again at the Brisa, what does it say? Mitoch ha'rechova this, mitzid ha'rechova that. In other words, as long as it's inside the rechova, it's a big marketplace where everyone can walk and everything is accessible. We don't view those mini Rishus HaYochid as Rishus HaYochid. No, it's all one big domain. We paint it all with one paintbrush. It's all Rishus HaRabim. We don't believe in those places. Lamaisa, the animal can reach there. Lamaisa, it's not separate enough. in a separate, behind the counter place, even though the person obviously owns the backpack, the rucksack, or the other animal belongs to the other guy. It's all one. It's all one place. It's all a place where animals walk around and eat and do whatever they want. And mainly it's all one shus rabim your potter, which means he argues on Yilfa and Rabbi Yoshia. And Rabbi Yossi, which is talking more about the fine details of the animal walking and eating, he would say no, where the animal can actually naturally walk and eat very naturally without doing anything out of the box, anything abnormal, that's considered shame. If the animal has to start craning the neck and eat over the back of the other animal or off the person's backpack, that already she should be chayev. And that is Rabbi Yossi. But again, Baruch Hashem, we got Rav and Shmuel off the hook. It's not a question of machzeres. Machzeres, to go to the side, and Chanami is one machlokes Rav and Shmuel. The machlokes between Omen and Rabbi Yossi is about those semi-private domains that are mobile in the middle of the street. Then we say it's a separate machlokes. That's machlokes Omen and Rabbi Yossi. Thank you very much. And now we have question time before the Mishnah. We are now about to embark on the new Mishnah, and everyone's very, very excited. Yes? No? Write down the question. Yeah. You can jot it down. Am I on? Yeah. Continue. Mishnah, or you can approach me at 10:21. Says the Mishnah. Now the next Mishnah is a different story. Imagine yourself, Bezos Hashem will be able to do the Mishnah easily. The case is of let's say, imagine yourself, very, very common nowadays. You have two backyards in Ramat Bet Shemesh. One animal has the dog. Hopefully they're not my neighbors. Yeah, and what? And now the dog jumped over the wall to the other person's domain, to the other person's yard, and it broke something. Yeah, I assume those things do happen every once in a while, and that's what happens in the Mishnah. That can also happen to a gedi. These are jumping animals. They're agile and quick. The kelev and the gedi, the goat. So let's see, the kid. הכלב והגדי שקופצו מראש הגג. They jumped off the roof. It's either a fence or maybe the roof of their own owner. From the roof of one house, they jumped onto the yard of the other persona, of the neighbor. The shovel is a kelim. They broke the kelim. Mishalem nezek sholem. The person has to pay full price. Mipnei shen mu'odin. They're mu'od for that. Likfot, says Rashi. It's a toldo of regel, not keren, because it's considered to be normal behavior for the dog to jump. And he wasn't vicious, dafka, trying to hit the kli necessarily. We don't have evidence for that. He's just jumping. Why? Because dogs like to jump. Yeah, maybe cats also. Cats actually do jump from very, very high places and they stay alive. We all know they have 9 lives, right? So Lamaisa, here you have a dog, you have a gdi, they jump, which is normal for them, and that's regel, and it's a shusa yochid. Everything's good. Regel, shusa yochid equals chayiv. A kelev, now we have the case which we discussed before. A kelev shenot al charoro. A kelev took a hot cake. The holach legodish. He went to someone's godish, the haystack. Ochal charoro. He ate the yummy hot cake. V'hidlik legodish. The bottom part of the cake is really, really hot in a way that the coals are still, red or still, they're flammable. Ala charoro, so he lit the godish. Yeah, he set the godish on fire. Ala charoro mshal nezek sholim. The charoro is full price because what is the charoro? It ate it. So what's a nezek? Shein. Vala godish mshal chatzi nezek. Why does he only have to pay half price for the godish? Tzoros! Everybody's so shakua and learning tzoros. You go to sleep, you think of tzoros. You eat lunch, you think of tzoros. Very good, very good. Tzoros, very nice. However, we're going to see more in detail next week in Mitzvah Hashem exactly what the story is. Why tzoros? Let's tell people who don't know. We have 1 million people watching. Yeah, because the fire started here. He actually placed the cake where? In one place. And then the fire started spreading. That's called tzoros. It's quite immediate, but he didn't set it with his own hands, with his own paws. It happened by like a second ripple effect. That's called tzoros. Although we're going to see machlokes of Yochanan and Reish Lakish about the fine details, that's, I'm afraid, not going to be today. Let me ask you a stupid question. Why do we have to repeat something which we learned already before? Are we repeating? Is that a repetition of what we saw? It's no, we already saw the sugya. Why is the Gemara mentioning it now?
We didn't have a kedi.
Sorry, I'm sorry he took over. Yeah, he's akafat chamiyamin, as they say. Yeah. That's a source. That's a Mishnah. The Mishnah is obviously the source for a Gemara that quoted it before. It was quoted before because it was relevant, but this is the Mishnah which is the source of the case. As we all know, the Mishnah is before the Gemara. Yeah. Okay. You okay? Or
Before we didn't use a kedi.
No. That's a kelev shenot al chalala. Excuse me. Look at the Mishnah. There are two cases in the Mishnah. The first case is kelev gdi that jumped. The second case is kelev with chalala. Right. I'm asking only about the second case of the Mishnah, not the first one. Yeah. Zok de heilige gemure. There are two cases. Taima de kofzu, says the Gemara. The only reason why the person is chayev is because the kelev and the gdi jumped. They know how to jump. Olympic. Hanoflu. Let's say they fell. Let's say it's my fence or my roof, let's say, and they fell off the roof. Yeah, they were walking there. And I, as the owner, was not mishgiach. I wasn't careful, and I know that they can jump, and I can already see if I'd be, aware enough. I should have, would have, could have seen. My husky is walking around nervously on the roof, too close to Pachachovsky's garden, my next door neighbor, and I'm not doing anything. And then the animal jumped. I'm chayev, but if the animal fell, the dog fell on the kelim and broke the kelim of the neighbor, then I'm patu. It sounds like I'm potu because we say kofzu, which is normal. Noflu is like something unexpected, potu, because I could say, hey, I didn't expect him to fall. My husky is very well trained. He fell, that's unexpected, it's not normal, and I'm potu because it's oines. Frag the Gemara, okay, Alma, that is to say, Kasova, you're trying to tell me, tchiltho b'pshiya וסופו באונס potu. Oh, here comes the sugya. It's involved with Tzia Daf Mem Aleph, I think. It says over there, tchiltho b'pshiya וסופו באונס potu, or chayiv. What does that mean? Tchiltho b'pshiya וסופו באונס is as follows. Let's say you are negligent, you're a perek. You're negligent and you did not take good care of whatever you have to take good care of. And then a different disaster happened. A different problem occurred, which is unexpected. You are negligent. Let's say there's a case over there, if I remember correctly, you didn't prepare this well enough. The tchiltho is the famous case. You placed money in a place, in a house in the forest where thieves never go there. They don't know about this place, but it's very flammable, highly flammable. It's in the forest. It's all made out of wood, made out of hay, whatever, with some gasoline on the side. You shouldn't have put the money there where it can go on fire easily. And then you know what happened? Thieves came, which is very unexpected for thieves to go over there. So what do we say? Tchiltho b'pshiya. You're not careful. Hey, let's wag your finger. You're uncareful regarding X. But then Y happened. An unexpected problem happened. So then we have a question. On one hand, you're a perek. On the other hand, the disaster that happened was not a result of your pshia, of your negligence. It was unexpected. So what do we go by? The beginning, where you're a naughty boy, or do we go by the end, where it's not your fault? Here it looks like you're potter. You should have said to Husky, hey, Husky, get down, get off the air, and pull him down, Why? Because it can jump, and that's very normal and very expected, and you're negligent. On the other hand, the final story was not Mepshia. The final story, it fell completely unexpectedly. He's an Olympic dog, and boom, all of a sudden he fell. So that's tchiltho b'pshiya וסופו באונס. We see that it's potter. Okay. So we see from our Mishnah that we pater. We say since at the end of the day there was oines, all good, all's well, ends well, all well. Tani nami, although it's machloikis, but that's what it seems to be from the Mishnah. Tani nami hachi. We see another brisa that supports it. Akelev agdi shekofzu mirosh agag v'shovu sakelim. Yeah, same thing. Mishalem nezek sholem. Noflu pturin. Oh, it says outright. Outright. If they fail, you're potter. Okay, all very nice. But there's a question. According to Manda Omar in the Gemara in Bov Metzia Daf Mem Aleph thing, those who say potter are happy with the Mishnah. It's Machlokes Tanoim, the one who says that this starting with X and finishing with Y, potter, the Mishnah is now a card in his hands. According to the Gemara that says תחילתו בפשיעה וסופו באונס is chayev, because Mister, you're a bad boy. You were uncareful. You're lucky, so to speak, that the disaster happened as a different result of something honest. But you're not a good person. You did neglect it, so you are chayev according to them. According to the other opinion, how do you explain the Mishnah? The Mishnah seems to be against that opinion, and the Mishnah against the Amoira is not good news for the Amoira. What are we going to do? Answers the Gemara, we have an ukimta. We're talking about a case where the kelim, those fancy vases, the fancy kelim of the Baal Habayis and his Gucci tie, they were so close to the wall. They were very, very close to the wall. We all know that if you jump, there's some kind of like a semicircle movement from you jump from over here and you reach over here. You jump, you don't slide down. So those kelim were so close to the wall, the jug is the wall. They were so close to the wall that by jumping, you wouldn't hit it. Right? I know that my husky can jump very nicely into the middle of my neighbor's garden. I know his way and his mahalach, but the kelim are over here. They're very near the wall in a place where kefitza, jumping, just wouldn't reach. So I was not a perek. I watched the husky very nicely, and I said, worst comes to worst, what's going to happen is going to jump into the middle of the chotzer where it's nice and clear and not going to disturb anybody, and I'm just going to tell him, I'm so sorry. That's all. It's going to be all very nice and buying chocolates. I didn't expect it to, Had it jumped, the kelim, which are very, very near the wall, wouldn't be affected, wouldn't break. Let's see it inside the Gemara. Kigoin, the line starts with Olam Eimar. Kigoin de mikavi kelim legabe koisel. The kelim are so close to the wall. The chi kafzi, if they jump, which is the expected thing, and in a way you are ki'ilu negligent, bekfitza lo nafli alayu. No, bekfitza, by jumping, they wouldn't fall on them. His kfitza wouldn't reach the kelim. He would jump over them, but not on them. Therefore, it's not even called it was perek, because there was no danger b'chlal in the horizon. It's not called tchilasa b'pshia, which means Enochinami says man de Omar Chayiv. I am right. If the kelim would be where? In the middle of the chotzer, where the animal would have jumped, would have reached it and break it, then I'm a perek, and then even though it fell on it somehow, I'd be chayiv. Tchilasa b'pshia, sofo ba'ones, no excuses. But since over here we're talking about a case where the kelim very near the wall, a kefitza wouldn't affect the mechlal, wouldn't make a difference. Mimela, I'm not called a perek. It's tchilasa be'oines, וסופו באונס. The whole thing was unexpected from beginning till the end. No, not good. You okay? You can talk now. I'm nice for a change. No, I can continue. You can talk. Whatever. Rav Zvid said sometimes, even if the animal fell, you still chayev, and says Rashi, even leman de Omar, tchilasa b'pshia וסופו באונס potur. Wow, even according to man de Omar, that you are. 1 second. Yeah. Even if you man de Omar that says tchilasa b'pshia וסופו באונס, you are potur, right? There is an opinion that says that if at the end of the day it was oines, I'm potur. I'm a bad boy, so give me a bad report card. Say no. But I said at the end of the day, what happened wasn't my fault. It was oines, so I'm potur. There is such an opinion. But now we say that there is a case in our Mishnah that even if the animal fell, I would be chayev. Wow. L'kula alma, I would be chayev. How could that be? Are you sure? Don't ask because it's a new thing, so you can ask now. Go ahead. No? But Mashkachas lo, when can we find such a case? B'koisel ra'ua. Koisel ra'ua. We're talking here about a koisel, which is ra'ua, which means, says Rashi, ma'akeh gag ra'ua. It's considered the whole thing. What's ra'ua? It's no shaky. It's like unstable. The whole koisel where my husky was walking on the wall between my neighbor and me, and the whole matzav there was, lo aleinu, I don't know, chas shalom, compare it to disaster that we saw this year, a kaisel ra'ua lo aleinu chalila can fall and cause damage. So the whole kaisel was lechatchila ra'ua. And therefore what? And therefore, if you see your dog walks over there, it's considered as pshia. The whole matzav of dog being there is your pershia, because you know that the dog can fall. Well, the wall can fall, but so is the dog. So the whole thing is expected. The whole assumption we said up until now, that if the dog fell, it's what? Oh, and if my dog fell, my dog's such a sport. Mechitesi would fall. Elamai, we have a question. You started off with pshia because you knew your dog can jump. But here it's not the story. Here, even the falling is also considered to be pshia because the matzav was shaky, wasn't stable, the whole wall. Now we're going to, I would not continue now. I didn't prepare the next piece well enough to continue. I apologize. I wish I could tell they can be here on, I'm not going to be here on Sunday, that's for sure. Okay, the share is over. Thank you very much. And we have to have our plans for next week.